Hi, Marcelo. Good morning. Thank you so much for agreeing to be present in this interview. And I wanted to introduce you a little bit about this concert series called Pathways. So Pathways is a concert series that highlights or tries to foster the performing of new music of living composers whose lives have been shaped by the experience of migration. So relocating to a new country or a new continent or to another culture has tangible personal and professional challenges. And so we wanted to hear about the stories behind the lives of many composers and performers that are participating in this concert series. So welcome to Pathways, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mariana. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I am so excited to be able to share your music with our audiences in Pathways. And as you know, I'm really, really fan of your music. And we have been in touch and developing this collaborative relationship for over more than a decade now, right? Yeah, about
I would say 20 years.
20 years.
Because
Yeah.
we met in that particular
2000.
situation in Argentina in a bus, remember?
Yes, and it was in 2003 or 2004. So
yeah, it's going to be 20 years. And you were working on your doctoral dissertation on Latin American music for flute.
Exactly. So we have this relationship for a very long time. We have been working together, and I have been fascinated with your music from the first time that I heard your piece for solo flute, Aliento Arrugas. So starting on, I remember that day so vividly, and
me too.
You know, I totally was fascinated and enchanted by your music. So
thank you so much, Mariana.
Let's go on. So to give a little bit of background information for our audiences and to get into the interview questions, let me tell everyone that you are from Argentina and that you were born in the northern part of Argentina in the province of Misiones in 1964. And yes. So it's going to be a long story told short, but could you please tell us a little bit about your journey? What brought you to relocate to New York and to the USA?
Okay, so I lived and I studied in Argentina until I was 20, I don't remember exactly, 26 or something. I studied at the University of Litoral in Santa Fe, where you are from. Yes, you are from the province of Santa Fe. So I moved from Posadas, Misiones to Santa Fe to study there. I studied with a great guitarist called Quique Núñez. There were no majors in composition, so I studied guitar, and slowly I started writing music. Then I moved here with my wife in 1992. Yes, I actually, to be honest, I didn't want to come here. I was very happy working in Argentina, but somehow just circumstances really opened up the opportunity to apply for a residency here, which is something I didn't look for. And then I thought, okay, let's apply. I'm sure we're not gonna get it. And then we got the famous lottery. And then suddenly in 6 months, we have to move from Argentina to United States. So that was really the reason why I came here. But once I was here, I started to see all the incredible possibilities that this new life could open for me. We moved to the north part of the state of New York, Syracuse, the city of Syracuse. Suddenly, from the warm weather in Argentina, I was in the middle of the snow for months and months. I studied there. I did a master in composition there, and was actually the first time that I started to compose in the way I do now. So slowly, I really started to appreciate being here, because to be here was for me an opportunity to remove all the noises around me and to concentrate in the things that I wanted. I read hundreds of books living here. I listened to music that I didn't listen in Argentina, even though I had a big background, a nice, interesting background already in terms of experiences with music, but I started moving to a different space. And that the University of Syracuse University gave me that opportunity. The library was open for me 24/7, yes, which is something I couldn't believe, yes. So I used to go to the library at midnight and stay there until 4 in the morning, looking for scores, reading. It was incredible world, really. I appreciate so much the fact that I had that opportunity and all these, resources on my hand, which is something with me is in Argentina. We don't have that easily access to different things.
Or yeah, just course to recording.
Yes. So that, yeah, absolutely. We have human resources in Argentina, yes. A lot of wonderful human resources, but in terms of the other things, at least at that time, remember, it was before the internet and everything, yes. So 92, 93 was the beginning. It was the beginning of the internet and all that. The emails were starting at that time. So it was a different world, yes. So I was used to have materials, as we used to call them in Argentina, el material, scores, books, from copies, photocopies of photocopies, etc. Yes, and if you were very lucky to get one book or one score by, let's say, Xenakis, yes, it was almost impossible. And so I started to feel grateful for this opportunity to live here when I had my master in Syracuse University. And then we moved to New York. And in New York, I applied to different schools and I was accepted at Columbia University. So then I continued for more years here in New York. And then we just have our life here. So it was easier, even though I loved going back to Argentina, and I kept strong contact with the music and with friends and with people, and the political situation that is always changing, and I'm so much into it, or I will say, not so much right now. So all that was a beautiful balance between what I needed to do here in this country and what I still kept in my mind and my soul, my heart, about all my connections with that space.
Wonderful. I can, your story resonates so much with mine because likewise, one of the reasons why I had to move to the US is because I didn't have any graduate degrees. There were not graduate programs in performance. So you're talking about doing your undergraduate in guitar because they didn't have a composition track in the music school. And then you're talking about this opening up of a world when you come to the US and you can see these universities filled up with scores open 24/7, right? And for me, it was like that. It's like in Argentina, I had different jobs as a music educator and always applying to different orchestras. And, I couldn't be a flutist. I had to be many other things. And I couldn't be a flutist. And when I was accepted for my master at Yale University, all of the sudden, flute was the world in which I lived in. And so I felt like, wow, this is me, right? It's a new discovery that enabled me.
You discovered the potential that you have, yes, and that you were not able to really explore because of the circumstances. So many difficulties in between jobs, etc., the reality of the life, etc., the complexity of our unexpected life in Latin America, yes. And then when you have the opportunity to concentrate in something that you love, you see how much you can do, and how yes.
It's an exponential growth. It's an exponential growth. So it's fascinating. But this brings me to another question, and it is in this relocating, in this rediscovering, in this adjusting to a new reality, the sense of home, our homeland, the place we belong to is transformed somehow. So how is it for you? Where is home for you now?
Well, home for me is the place where I have my things, my books, my scores, my instruments, and in a space to think and to live. Yes, so that is home for me. In this case, for many years, it's New York. Yeah, many years actually. Um, but of course, as soon as I go into Argentina and the the hmm, I don't know the name of these people, when they open the door of the airplane,
Yeah.
and I smell that smell, which is incredibly different from whatever smell I can smell here, and I say, wow, this is me, this is life. Yes, and that happened to me every time that I go to Argentina. So there is a sense of well, I'm missing something. Yes, by living in a space where I cannot smell those things, yes, there is something missing. Yes, but I keep it with me because I travel at least once a year to Argentina. In the last 2 years, because of the circumstances, I couldn't do it, but I travel to Argentina and I see people in the street, people that I never met, of course, but I can tell who they are, what they do, etc. In this country, I still don't know anybody, so I see people in the street, even my neighbors. They are like holograms for me, you know.
Mhm.
So, so the so in that sense, home is two things. One is my space, as I mentioned, where I can work, where I can concentrate and read and be in silence, etc. And then the other home is a mental home. And my mental home, of course, is in the South, of course. It's a and my music, in a way, reflects that because the music that I write is coming from a place that is not here, it's not Europe, it's coming from a place that was my living experience. Yes. And I will say, I will risk this, my living experience, not only since I was born, but before I was born.
Oh, totally. I totally see that.
So yeah, so then in a way I feel that home is also in my music and the way I work. Yes, and the way performers like you bring home to me my own work, you know, because when you play Polifonía Concreta, for example, it's your, wow, you're bringing me home, you know, bringing those things that, you know, where I am surrounded by some specific or some special uh, atmosphere, you know. I don't have nostalgia really, you know. It's just like I live my life with home all around me, you know.
Yes, home is such an interesting concept because as your description explains, it can be interpreted from so many different angles. You know, the place, the physical place where you are, the things that you surround yourself with, the activities you surround yourself with. But in your explanation, you didn't betray the the primal home or the home where we were from originally, and how those experiences smells. I totally relate. Every time that I get out of the plane and when I arrive in Buenos Aires in Argentina and I smell that, it's like I'm home.
I
It's
know
like
it's incredible
it's an incredible smell. I
feeling.
know
It's
that.
so it's such a remote, almost unspeakable feeling
Yeah, yeah,
that comes to you. You feel it, and you're happy, and also sometimes it's a complex feeling. It's not only happiness, it's a contradictory feeling. Yes,
yes,
but at the same time there is something no more real than that. Yes.
yes,
I
yeah,
would like to add, Mariana, one more thing that is home from the last 11 years, my daughters, Sol and Luna.
yeah.
And I'm sure you have the same feeling. Yes.
Same feeling too, right? And so this evolving, right? Like this idea of home really evolves through life, and um through through the people we develop with, to the people we are giving in life, right? Like our daughters.
Yes.
And also through the process of migration, just for the topic of this conversation, I think that there's an enrichment of this idea of home that is flexible, is always evolving, always in flux, in change, always challenging, and intrinsically paradoxical, right? That there's
Absolutely.
no one way to define it. But in this process of growth, if you will, and this concept, there are sometimes things that we miss and that we lost, right, in the experience. Yeah, we reallocate to a new place where it gives us a lot of opportunities. We meet new people. We grow professionally and personally, but the stretch from the original environment is something that is painful in a way, right?
Oh,
So
yes.
migration, it's a way of generating more opportunity, but it's also ancestral pain, if you will, right?
Absolutely.
A human pain on the
Yes.
things that we lose. So if we can talk a little bit about that, what we lost in transferring or in translation, right? What it would be that you miss about that you lost in this process?
Well, being here for almost 30 years already, I will say that what I miss is all the possible opportunities of experiences that I could have had with my brothers, for example, and with my family. So I have three brothers, and of course the extension of the family too, and the extension of the family which are friends, etc. So you cannot be in two places at the same time, even if you are connected and you have always found ways to be in communication. One thing is communication, and another one is the experience itself. Yes. So, for example, when Argentina went into this big crisis in the year 2001, 20 years ago, uh, my family, my friends, everybody, they were suffering the circumstances. And of course, I was feeling something, but I wasn't living that. Yes. So what we miss in a way is the experience itself of different things. Yes. And then you have to just accept that, even if you are connected, you are not living the same experience day after day, and there is something missing there. Now, after that, you also could think or reflect on the fact that there are some things that you better don't experience, you don't want to experience. Yes. Yeah? So because those are the circumstances that many Latin American countries have. Yes, we have this struggle, yes, political, social struggles through hundreds of years, yes. And those things are the ones that we mentioned already before, delayed so many things or make complicated the possibilities to really realize all the things that you could do with your life, yes, and your work. So there are missing stuff, but at the same time, those missing things opened the possibility for you to really do other things, experience other things. Yes. But I am a person who is not disconnected from my space. Yes. So I have friends that as soon as they move here, they completely forgot everything. Yes. And immediately, yes, they started, they don't know some words in Spanish. It's funny, of course. Yes. It's not my case. I am absolutely connected to that world. Yes. And at the same time, I don't have any nostalgia. It's just I am connected. So I'm probably I don't have nostalgia because I'm connected. Yes. So
you cannot miss what is in you, what is part of you.
Exactly. You know that famous line of Atahualpa Yupanqui. He said, "I bring my la tierra with me." Yes.
Yeah. I mean, la tierra. It's within. It's within.
Exactly. It's within.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think it was a long explanation of your question.
It was perfect. It was perfect. Let's talk about your music, because it's fascinating, and I know that people will have many questions when they listen to one of your compositions, the ones that will be included in this concert. So the first time that I heard your music, it was like nothing I heard before. It was contemporary music made accessible. What do I mean by that? Sometimes contemporary music, when it doesn't rely on a melody, on a catchy rhythm, on the typical semantics of contemporary music, 20th century and even 21st century music, it's predictable in a way, that you can know that this melody is going to be disjuncted and there's going to be some dissonance and it's going to be a sound effect here and a sound effect there. And it becomes very predictable in their disjoint language. But with your music, the first time that I heard it, it was like contemporary music or a very novel language of sound that was telling me so many things. I could see things when I heard it. I could imagine a narrative. So even though the music per se, when we play it, is not accessible, it's very difficult. The interpretation, the meaning making of your music was absolutely tangible. Very, very tangible. And I remember when we met in 2004, you were working or just finished your dissertation. Something about composing with noises.
Composing with fluid noises.
With fluid noises. So this idea of fluidity of noises. So tell me a little bit about your exploration of your sonic exploration. What do you mean by noises? And what are the kind of music materials that you are the most interested in?
Okay, wow, great question. Well, when I wrote my dissertation was after at Columbia University, that was the year 2004, is because I used one piece called Para el Encuentro en los Abismos, that it was a commission from Ensemble de Contemporain. I wrote a piece for 24 musicians, and that piece I decided, okay, this will be my dissertation piece. But of course, I just wrote the music, and I wrote the music without thinking in any theory about it, yes? Then I had to write something about the music and my work and my approach to composition. So I started thinking after I wrote the piece. In that process, I came to the conclusion that what I'm not doing is just pure noises or complex or inharmonic sounds. It's something else, yes? And it was not similar to the way many European composers were working with noises, let's say Lachemann, yes, who is coming from a tradition that the music is very much influenced by the way that tape music was addition of sounds, yes, addition of different noises coming from the tradition of musique concrète, for example, yes. So the sounds that I heard of composers like him and others were always inorganic sounds, yes, or inorganic noises, yes. And I'm expressive by nature, I think. So in my exploration of sounds and noises, I always found myself creating sounds that evolve in time, yes, sounds like, yes. So then that was my expression with these sounds. It was not, no, those are dead sounds for me. So they didn't tell me anything, yes. So, but that came from my body because, as you know, my first piece exploring those sounds was Aliento Arrugas, where I rented an instrument and I started playing, and I discovered what happened when you put together an instrument and a body, which is in that case my body, yes. So the body was expressing something through an instrument. And that connection, I kind of tried to understand why that was happening. Why I didn't play just the flute as no, something special was happening, and I pay attention to that. and I pay attention to those sounds. And then I had to just find a way to write it down. So that was the process to 1998 all the way to 2003 and 4. In that process, I wrote several pieces with complex sounds, yes, or inharmonic sounds, or what I call simply noises, yes, ruidos. Because I don't want to explore too much the semantic of ruidos, yes, I didn't want to, I follow Morton Feldman, that when you explain something, you kill it.
Right.
So I really explore the things more than reflect on things in terms of language. And when I arrived to that moment that I had to write my dissertation, I got into the fluid noise as a way to explain with more precision what exactly I'm doing. And fluid noises is also an ambiguous expression, yes, an ambiguous term, yes. And fluid noises, well, but that was enough for me. And I developed through it a way of thinking about this. But also, it's not only that, but in a way I related, as I said before, I'm not doing what these people are doing. I'm not interested. I'm not a German composer. I'm not an American composer in the sense of others, you know, let's say experimental composers like John Cage, which I appreciate and love. So what is it that I am, you know, what I'm doing here? And then in that process of writing several pieces, I found, okay, it seems to me that I am working on something that first belong to a place. Yeah? It's coming from a place, yes, which are not those places. It's coming from the South. In what way? Is this a nationalistic approach? Not at all, yes? No, it's something else. And I still am in that process, and you can probably articulate better what that is, because you, many times I heard you saying things related to my music that exactly touch the essence of what I do. So
yeah, I think that your music, first, your music is home, and it's home in that sense that it is from the South, and it is also not, and it's also from the ancestral South, and this idea of that I am from even before when I was born. That's why sometimes I feel that your music happens in a liminal space, not here, not there, and in between. That is what it brings, the complexity of your music, the complexity of your sound, and the complexity of the interpretation. And I want to follow up first on one idea that I thought while you were talking, and I heard you mentioning before about your intention to erase the identity of the instrument, right? So whenever you are playing, you are writing for flute or for voice or for contrabass or any instruments that you approach, you want to stay away from the traditional semantic and sonic expectation of that instrument, and even the technical expectation of that instrument, so that you find a new way to approach the instrument in sound and in technique, so that the music by Marcelo Toledo is played in a way that is totally unconventional. And that's what it will transpire in all of the performances and recordings, including that will be included in this concert series. And talking again about the liminality, right, of the finding a place that has not been seen before, has not been spoken before, that kind of language, that brings me also to this idea of the broken rhythm that we were mentioning before. Sort of like your music is difficult to time. It doesn't want to be timed. It's a sense of the unrhythm, if you will, in which there is unpredictability on what is going to happen. And I think that that is so important for this concept of fluidity, fluid noise that you are saying, something that you cannot measure, that you cannot organize in a way. So it's sort of like the sound resists organization. There is organization, believe me, that there is, but it happens so fast. It happens in ways that are so novel that for the brain, it's difficult to process.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what brings also the complexity in notation. So, you know, we will see some of your music and the beautiful way that you notate your music with so much detail. And I know that you have been always exploring new ways of putting on paper what it is in your soul or in your brain, in your mind. So tell us a little bit about that process and what are you working on all the time in terms of notation.
So you mentioned three things, yes? First, that I destroyed, if you want, the history of an instrument in order to work with it, yes? So the instrument is any instrument, any classical instrument is coming with a lot of history, yes? A lot of tradition. And many people will say, okay, you know how to play the instrument, you don't know how to play the instrument, or you learned how to play an instrument, etc. The way of learning an instrument and learning how to play, it brings the byproduct of culture, yes? Meaning all those layers and layers of information that brings you into a space, yes? So if you want to play an instrument, you want to learn an instrument, you have that tradition behind that brings you into the present, yes? Now, that is great for a performer, yes, approach. Now, as a composer, I think, or as a creator, I think the work should be, at least it's in my case, it could be possible that way too, but I noticed that after learning many things about different instruments, orchestration, etc., I really decided to forget about that information and that knowledge in order to really be empty again or naked in the confrontation with the instrument, yes? So then, yes, when I took the flute for the first time, I said, okay, how do you blow this instrument, yes? And I tried to find the most essential and elemental aspect of the instrument, which is, this is just an object. And this object could sound, yes? And how this object will produce sounds. Okay, and then that is the first step to connect with the instrument, yes? So I don't take it for granted that you have to blow from this particular place, or I don't take it for granted that this instrument could not be a percussion instrument, but it's only a wind instrument, etc. Those things that we all take for granted, naturally, it's not that I put myself in that position. I just, after 10, 15 years of experience, I noticed that is the way I work, yes? I didn't impose myself to be working in that space. It just happened in that way. And then, of course, I started thinking about it, yes? So, for example, I'm not interested in extended techniques per se. I don't even consider extended techniques as a word, yes? Because everything is extended. Anything we do is an extension of something, yes? So even when you play a beautiful trill, playing Mozart is an extension of something, yes? So everything is extension. So that concept doesn't really fit in my way of thinking in terms of what I do with the instrument, yes? Yes, and then I work and I find things, but what I find is not what I find in the instrument. I repeat what I said before. What I find is in the interaction between an object and a body. Is there where the friction is created. It's not the instrument itself. So that is why reading about the techniques of an instrument doesn't help me at all, yes? I read the technique of an instrument, I am detached from the body. Yes, the body is not there. So how can I think about techniques or possibilities, etc., if I don't have the friction with the real body, yes? So my music comes from that friction. If there is no body, there is no music. So, yeah. And then that is the thing.
It's the experience of the embodiment, right?
Embodiment, and yes, exactly what happened there, yes? And it's a very small space where the thing happens, yes? Things happen in a very reduced, almost, imperceptible space, yes? And time too, it's not only space, it's also time. something happened in a specific time. Oh, what is this? Yes. So that is the first thing. Then now you also mentioned second point. I don't remember. You mentioned that. You mentioned notation. Yes, which is a whole new
Whole new-
topic. Yes, but I would like to be just synthetic if I can, and I would like to say that in the same way that we accept instruments with all the history and the tradition and what I call culture, yes, many times I will say in parentheses, culture works against art. Why? Because art is the unknown and culture is the known aspect of art. Yes.
Yeah.
Culture is the crystallization of many situations that were um, unknown, yes, and they were born in a specific place where things were, let me say the word, lo increado, yes. In español we have lo creado y lo increado. The space of the, tell me, please help me here.
Uncreated.
Uncreated, yes. The space of the uncreated is the space of art. The space of the created is the manipulation of the uncreated, transform and place in a specific place so when people can enjoy it, yes, and that is culture, yes. And in a way, culture is a dead object, yes. So in the same way, notation is a dead object, is something given. If you accept the given, you will not be able to do more than what it was already done. If you start from a score with all the assumptions as how to write music, and then you will be, without noticing even, you will be working or moving inside a space that is a known space. Now, when you have to work in a new piece of music and you don't accept that given is where you can recreate everything from scratch. Start again notation and the representation of music from a place that is new again, is newborn again, yes? It's not given. That's why I have all my scores, every time is different, yes? My last piece that I wrote for Kena, yes, is an exploration of the unknown, and I came into that score with a new notation using colors, etc., etc. Yes, so that is what I like to do. I would like to create from scratch, not accepting what is given. Anybody could say that, yes, because this can be just words, but I mean it.
I know you do. I know you do. Well, listening to you, I cannot help but to remember the first time that we worked together in one of your works. I think it was Aliento Arrugas or Polifonía.
You came to New York to work on Aliento Arrugas, which was part of your doctoral dissertation.
Yes, that was my first trip to New York to work with you. And I was playing and you explained to me, Mariana, you have to be the sound. So in a way, I just want to officially tell you that you have been one of the major masters, capitalized masters in my musical journey, because you really taught me something that is priceless, of that idea of embodying the music. Where is the music? It's definitely not in the score. It's not in what you wrote. It's not in the instrument. It's that thing that really takes over when you are performing. And so when we are working together, you would say all the time, you gotta be the sound. You cannot think about the sound. If you're thinking about the sound,
you're outside,
not being the sound. Yes. So this split of a second that the brain needs to do to really create the action with the sound, with the language, with the meaning, all at the same time.
Yes.
And so only when I was able to captivate that state of mind, trance-like in a way, only is when That's it. You said that's
Yes, and that
that's
happened to you. I know because of your recordings and your videos of my music. It's happening there. Absolutely. Yes. And
I,
it's a very subtle difference between doing it and not doing it. Yes.
yeah. You know, you're not doing the music. You have to be the music.
Yes, you have to be the sound. Yes.
Have to be the sound. And so yeah, that has been a process of learning that I then could apply to many other aspects, you know, of
Another music too. Yes.
and other music too. Yeah. So I'm infinitely grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I believe that people, when they listen to the piece, they will be able to put together all that we have talked about. And of course, I could continue talking about your music for hours and hours, Marcelo, but we will in the next interview.
Yes. A pleasure to talk to you, of course, as usual, Mariana.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing your approach to music making, that novel space that you provide to performers and to audiences in contemporary music. And we will be delighted to listen to your music.
Thank you so much, Mariana. A pleasure and an honor to be part of this.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.